Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Cam Eruption, and this is week 2 of the APA Indigo League. So this week we're facing off against my opponent, Shy Guy Serpent, and his San Diego Spheals, with a pretty cute logo right there. And unfortunately, we did lose our last game to Aurora and the Snow Point City Ninetales, but we are going to try our hardest to bounce back. And I'm going to be real, this is not the opponent I wanted to try to bounce back against, because I have never beaten Shy Guy before. We faced in another league in which he beat me in both the regular season and the playoffs, so not a big fan of battling this guy. I mean, he's a ton of fun to play, but he's just really good. He was in playoffs last season, so he means business here. But that's okay. We have some pretty fun prep here on this team that I think can potentially catch him off guard. So with that, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of just go over the team recap real quick. So, one mon on Shy Guy's roster that always gives me trouble anytime I play it is Clefable, and I just wanted something that could just basically just trap and delete Clefable, and that's exactly what this Gothitelle is for. So basically with this investment I can just taunt it, I can keep Psychic spamming it down so it can't recover, and then I can also just rest when I need to, and then recycle to keep getting my Chesto Berry back. So this particular set can honestly basically it'll just give his wall core a whole lot of trouble. Like Clefable can't recover, Porygon 2 is another one he has that can't recover, Blastoise has no reliable recovery anyway, so if we can just taunt them and just keep Psychic them while healing, this Gothitelle set can put in a lot of work. So that's my thinking here. The special defense investment, it makes, I don't remember the exact count, but it makes like just uninvested Moonblast like a 5 or 6 hit KO, something ridiculous like that. So it's a very, very especially bulky Pokemon. So that is our Gothitelle. Next here we have a pretty fun set. We have a Nasty Plot Ninetales with Nasty Plot Flamethrower, Solar Beam, Hidden Power Ice. Really simple spread just because Shy Guy has a Salamence. So if the need arises, essentially, it may come down to a Speed tie versus a Salamence Earthquake and a Ninetales HP Ice, but that's okay. Sometimes you just have to take risks. And this set I think can put in a lot of work. Flamethrower really good. Fire MZ in the Sun will just kill any variant of Nidoqueen. Obviously, of course, I'd have to do some scouting and make sure it's not like a Choice Scarf Nidoqueen, because I obviously do not want to take that Earth Power. So that's a pretty cool Ninetales set right there. Solar Beam for that Blastoise, and HP Ice, of course, for the Salamence. So honestly, it's just really good coverage. Pretty much the only thing Shy Guy has that will wall this Ninetales is his own Fire type in Darmanitan. So pretty cool set right there. Next here we have Immunity of the Sylveon. And this is just a pretty standard Sylveon. Unlike Aurora, who had the soundproof Como-O last week, this week we are free to just run Pixelate Hyper Voice as our attacking move, which is really cool. Wish Protect in Leftovers will allow some good recovery. And we can also Baton Pass a Wish if needed to, or just use it to generally get like a slow momentum move. So I'm liking the Sylveon set. It's very standard, but it's very reliable. So, pretty standard set, but I think it can put in work. Next year we actually have a really cool set with the it's another Choice Scarf Heliolisk set, but this time because we are bringing Ninetales, we are able to bring the Solar Power set with Thunderbolt, Hyper Voice, Focus Blast, and Surf. So obviously, learning from last week's loss and putting Hyper Voice on this set, maybe it'll come into play, maybe it won't. Thunderbolt for our best stab move. Focus Blast for the Mega Aggron that he has. And then Surf, obviously, it'll be kind of neutered in the Sun, but outside of the Sun, it's, again, just another, pretty much my best move to hit the, he has a Nidoqueen. So we've played both Nidos back-to-back, which is kind of funny. But yeah, overall, I think this set can put in work. If I can chip stuff down into range of Solar Power Heliolisk, I think it can potentially clean late game. So we got a cool set there. Next here we have just the standard bulky Mantine set with the Scald, Roost, Toxic, and Ice Beam. So this is just another kind of defensive wall Pokemon that, like I had mentioned during my draft analysis, that because Mantine has such ridiculous special defense, I can pretty much just every week just dump all of its defense EVs into regular defense, and it'll still take hits from both sides of the spectrum like a champ. Like, as you can see, obviously 316 special defense with no investment. That's pretty cool. And obviously the Ice Beam is for Salamence. Salamence is a huge threat. Like, Dragon Dance can kind of just destroy me. He could have, because, you know, he could potentially run Moxie, or he could run Intimidate to intimidate my Zygarde, and then Dragon Dance himself. I could see that also being a set. So that's my Mantine set. And then finally here we have a Habanberry Zygarde that's designed to just kind of set up in front of Shy Guy Salamence. You know, take a dragon move if needed thanks to our berry, and then just start essentially just punching holes with Outrage. So obviously one drawback of Zygarde is that it doesn't have Dragon Claw, and so sometimes you have to rely on Outrage, but that's honestly not a problem this week at all, because, you know, if Clefable comes, we have the Gothitelle to trap it, and once that is gone, you know, we can just start setting up and just spamming that glorious Outrage. Alright, so that's our pretty brief team recap. So with that, let's go ahead and let's jump into the battle here. So Shy Guy brought a very, very interesting roster against me. Gorgeist, Gorgeist is a Pokemon that I should have considered more in prep, just because, you know, you always want to bring your Grass type against the Zygarde. So that could be a little bit annoying with things like Will-O-Wisp and whatnot. And Darmanitan I thought had an interesting matchup. It always just hits really hard, and I do have the Sun to help it, but I also have the double ground types and the Mantine. So I was kind of 50-50 as far as if Darmanitan was coming. Lollapalooza I thought had a solid matchup. It could potentially be like Scarf Foul Play for a Dragon Dance Zygarde maybe, but it can also just help against things like the Gothitelle. Mega Aggron, pretty sure is going to come. It's a Stealth Rock setter. It's really annoying. It's bulky. And it has some pretty decent coverage moves like Ice Punch. Salamence I knew was coming, and Nidoqueen I was pretty sure was coming as well. So, you know, other than no Clefable, pretty standard team as far as what I thought might come to this match. So let's go ahead and let's just jump into this match right now. So I'm expecting a Darm lead, so I'm just going to lead off with the Mantine. Well, he actually leads off with the Alolan Persian. So he goes for the Fake Out, does like absolutely no damage. Leftovers will recover it completely back. While here he will just Parting Shot into Salamence. Well, here I will go for a Toxic and miss, which is kind of annoying, especially since the Salamence will Toxic me. That's okay, because we have the Ice Beam. I don't want a Dragon Dance to occur, but here we actually reveal that's kind of a bulky Salamence set. But it is good for future reference that the Yachi Berry is popped. So with that, I really don't want to deal with this Aggron. I'm just essentially just fishing for a Scald Burn, just so that way Zygarde can kind of set up in front of it freely. But with 2 tries, I do not get it, which is unfortunate. So this Toxic will kill my Mantine, so a bit reckless right there, but this is where the fun begins. So Ninetales is going to come in here. It's going to force out the Aggron and into the Salamence as I Nasty Plot. So now we've got a +2 Ninetales here, and I have a decision to make. You know, I'm max speed timid, and I don't know his spread at all, other than being kind of bulky. But you know, it could be like max HP, but still a jolly nature, just because of the Ninetales. So I'm not entirely sure what this Salamence spread is going to be, but you know, this is the point where I just say screw it. You know, he has Toxic. I think he's a bulkier spread. I do not think he is a max speed Salamence. So I am just going to go for the +2 Hidden Power Ice, and we will just kill that Salamence. So that's a huge threat out of the way. And I find out after the battle that my instincts were correct. It was a much bulkier Salamence that only had, I think, like 100-something speed EVs. So that was the right play there. But then comes another mind game here, because Nidoqueen is immediately going to come in here. So my immediate thought is, okay, is this thing Scarfed? And I really, really, really wanted to just completely call this bluff and say, no, this is not a Scarf Nidoqueen. I wanted to just click that Fire EMZ, kill this Nidoqueen, but I just thought the risk was too great, honestly, because Ninetales, obviously, if you look at his remaining Pokemon, it beats Gorgeist, it beats Aggron. It's a timid nature, so Foul Play from Alolan Persian isn't going to do any damage to it. So I'm thinking that it still has some use. So even though I was really, really tempted to just go for the Z move, I do make the safe play and go out into Gothitelle, and that is fine. So here, I found out after the battle here that this exchange right here that Shy Guy, he actually made a mistake on his prep in that he brought a modest Nidoqueen but with Earthquake instead of Earth Power. So that's kind of funny, but it still does a decent amount of damage just because I'm obviously a more specially defensive Gothitelle. So that said, the mistake, it kind of works out in a way, but again, not a whole lot just because I'm able to just keep recycling and keep waking myself up here. So with that, the Gothitelle will get to 1v1 the Nidoqueen, so that's a nice threat gone, which is very helpful. So if that was Scarfed, it's not going to matter late game, but here he reveals a Life Orb Darmanitan. So that's kind of annoying. I kind of lose my Gothitelle a bit too recklessly, which, you know, probably was not the best here. But now here I am just going to Baton Pass out after getting the Wish, and here Shy Guy will make a really good prediction right here, and he will just Earthquake. So even though he has a Steel, I find out that he has a Steel move on this Aggron, he made just a really good prediction right there. It's a shame that I had shown the Baton Pass earlier, honestly, because then I probably could have potentially gotten in Ninetales safely on a Heavy Slam and healed up, but I don't know. That was a really good play. You know, like I said, he's a good battler. You know, perhaps going into something like Zygarde might have been a bit better, in all honesty, but that's okay. So we've lost our Ninetales, which that stings. So this Aggron is very annoying, but that's okay because we have a Solar Power Heliolisk. We're going to click our Focus Blast. We're going to connect it, surprisingly. But even with the Solar Power, like, base 120 super effective move, it still does not kill. So this Mega Aggron is an absolute beast. So just putting in a ton of work against my team. We're down 4-2, so it's not looking good. But anyway, here I just do a little bit of protecting, stalling, because obviously I want to stall out this Sun before the Darmanitan comes back, because a Flare Blitz in the Sun would do a ton of damage. As you can see here, that drops us from like 97 down to 2. So Zygarde will come in here, and we will force this Darmanitan out as I go for the Coil. So here, I just click Outrage straight away. We do a pretty good chunk of damage. And I clicked Outrage right away because I was really scared of the Will-O-Wisp. But unfortunately here, the Gourgeist, we get kind of a lower roll the second turn, which is, or perhaps a really high roll the first turn. But essentially what happens there is that, I don't know, I was super scared of Will-O-Wisp, which is why I immediately attacked. But on Shy Guy's end, I realized that, okay, in hindsight, he was probably really scared of Substitute, which is why he didn't immediately Will-O-Wisp. So if I had the foresight to foreseeing all this crazy stuff, you know, if I had clicked like a Coil and a Dragon Dance there, that would have been amazing. Then we could have probably won the game right there. But unfortunately, I'm not at that level of a player to make these kind of super crazy advanced reads. But, you know, that's okay. This is a learning experience, and regardless of whatever the calc on the Zygarde versus the Gourgeist is, unfortunately this stupid pumpkin will barely hang on. So that is kind of frustrating. That's okay, because we will just kill the Gourgeist right away. So we are confused by the Outrage here, so that's kind of annoying. I realize we've pretty much just lost this game, so I'm just going to sack off the Sylveon, so that way I don't have to deal with Outrage confusion. And here, there's not really too much point of setting up, in all honesty. Here, he's just going to knock me off. I'm just going to go for arrows just for damage. With that, he will go for the Black Hole Eclipse, which Zygarde's so bulky that's not even going to kill, so we're just going to Outrage, get a critical hit, but that still does nothing when we're burned, and we will die to the burn chip damage. So, I don't know. Another unfortunate loss, so I did not want to start my season 0-2. This is actually a worse start than Season 1 in terms of, I believe the first season we lost Week 1, but then won Week 2. So starting with 2 losses, not ideal by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm honestly fine with it. You know, Shy Guy's a really good battler. I knew this was going to be a very difficult match to come back and win. So, but, you know, do as you do. You know, we're going to try to come back next week. You know, I have another very good opponent Week 3. So, you know, that's how this league works. You know, it's the APA. Like, you know, this is the largest league I've been a part of, and there's no bad players. Okay, there's me, but besides that, so, hey, we're going to come back. We're going to try our hardest next week, and we will try to pick up our first win of the season there. So, overall, pretty fun game. Some things that, again, I could have done better, but, Ninetales was a lot of fun. Gothitelle was a lot of fun. I'm glad I got to use those for the first time. But, Shy Guy, he's just such a good player, and one of these days I'm going to get the best of him. But with that, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next week for my next APA game.